Hello again, everyone. My name's Chris. This is going to be a little different video today. Um, I'm going to be covering the disappearance of a 13-year-old girl named Rachel Marie Mellon. Now, excuse me, I got to move my notes. Um, this is a little girl who went missing on January 31st, 1996, from Bolingbrook, Illinois. She is considered endangered and missing, but currently she is being investigated as a homicide. So I just wanted to get into this a little bit because I feel like it's something I think that all missing children and missing people in general deserve the families deserve a closure. And I'm not saying this will do anything, but maybe this brings fresh eyes onto a sad situation that can, if not do anything to help and try to provide some kind of closure, maybe it can bring fresh eyes on something. And you never know. Maybe somebody watching this remembers it, and maybe from there they know a little bit of something. You never know how these things can play out. I apologize. My microphone's a little further away. So I wanted to get into this case. As I said, I don't have any picture. My software right now is not working with me, so I will provide the links and all the information and pictures of Rachel Marie Mellon after in the links and descriptions, and contact information for the police department and all the relevant things that you might need. But it's a sad story, and it's also a little bit of a twist in it that I think is what draws me to this story, and I feel is important to discuss. So as I said, she went missing January 31st in 1996. She was living in Bolingbrook, Illinois. She's female. Race is Asian. Her date of birth is October 13th, 1982. She would be 39 years old. Went missing when she was 13. At the time, she was 5 foot. She was between 62 and 80 pounds. Clothing description that's given is a pink sweater or sweatshirt, yellow sweatpants, and red house slippers at the time of her disappearance. Distinguishing characteristics: Asian female. She has black hair and hazel eyes. She has a mole on the upper side of her lip, on the upper left side of her lip, and her ears are pierced. She may use the last name Skemp, Skemp, probably in conjunction with the name Mellon, as in Mellon Skemp or Mellon Skemp. And some agencies refer to her as Rachel Mellon Skemp instead of Rachel Marie Mellon. It may not make a difference, but why leave it out? You never know what is and what isn't pertinent. And since it's someone who's been missing for a while, it doesn't matter the time that she's been missing. Everything is still pertinent until you know what happened, until there's closure or someone's arrested or unfortunately a body's found or whatever. Until that happens, everything should be put out in the open. She may appear to be Italian or of Greek descent. Her hair was cut short at the time of her disappearance. It's a while ago. But she often wore it shoulder length. Haircut is seen, and there's a variety of different haircuts. I will post a link to it so you can take a look at it. But I real quick just wanted to dive into the details, because I think that they are... It's upsetting when you start to get into it, because let's just get into it. She was... Rachel at the time, in 1996, was a 7th grader at Ward Middle School. This is in Bolingbrook, Illinois. On January 31st of that year, she had stayed home from school. She wasn't feeling good. She had a bit of a sore throat. So she was last seen taking a nap in her bedroom at her parents' home, obviously in Bolingbrook, sometime in that afternoon. Now, she stayed home that day, and her stepfather, his name is Vincent Mellon, he was unemployed at the time. He was also home with her, and he said that she was wrapped up in a blue blanket with a couple pillows, and last time he saw her, she was just falling asleep on the couch. As he says, this is a quote from Vincent. He says that the two of them were playing video games together. Then she fell asleep, and their family German Shepherd needed to go for a walk. Now these are things we're going to come back to. I'm not saying, but I'm going to be saying, but I'm not saying. So she falls asleep. Vincent decides to take the German Shepherd for a walk at about 2:30. Now, when he walked out of the house, he left the door unlocked because he didn't feel like he'd be gone for very long. He said that he was out a little bit longer than normal because the dog had gotten off of its leash and began to chase a rabbit. And so he was gone for longer than he expected. He didn't return to the house until at least a half hour later. So that should put him back at the house at about 3 p.m. The authorities maintain that Vincent says that he never checked on Rachel when he got home. She was no longer on the couch sleeping. He believed that she had went to her room to just go to sleep. So the door was shut. He did not want to disturb her. He left her alone. Okay. So it wasn't until approximately 5 o'clock. Now, this is a 2-hour window where her mother, Amy Mellon, comes home from work. And some other family members arrived, it said. But Rachel was not one of them. The 2 pillows and the blue blanket that Rachel had fallen asleep and wrapped herself in were also missing. Now, as I said, the date is January 31st. Bolingbrook, Illinois. That's a suburb of Chicago. If you know anything about winters in Illinois, in the Midwest, they tend to get a little bit of the old white powder. It tends to snow. And up around Chicago, you got the winds coming off the lakefront. It's cold, which is where things start to not make sense. See, she went missing, and her winter clothes, shoes, and her coat were still at the house. Now remember, Vincent, her stepfather, says that he took the dog for a walk and he left the door unlocked. Dog slipped off the leash, chased a rabbit. Well, okay. But what makes it weird is that he decided to take the dog for a little walk in 20 degrees below zero, freezing. Now, I don't know about you. I've had a dog. I had an Alaska Malamute who loved going out in the winter. The only problem is that you have to decide that a half hour is too long. And it would be convenient to have slipped off a leash, but maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But that is awful cold to want to take your dog for a walk. Now, I don't know how far he took the dog for a walk. I don't think he says. But this sounds like, I don't know, an individual walking to a Subway sandwich shop at 3 in the morning and getting attacked by a couple of MAGA supporters. Doesn't make sense when you kind of put things together, especially when it's like 10 below. But that's a separate story. So we'll continue. So, like as I said, the wind chill was 20 degrees below zero outside that day. Her purse and Walkman were also left at her residence. There was no indication of forced entry, and why would there be? The front door was unlocked. Not saying anything, but I'm saying, but I'm not. An extensive search of the surrounding area turned up no signs of Rachel. Now, authorities stated she could not have survived long if she went outside in the exposure to the elements, which is exactly what I was hinting at. Why would you be out that long? Initially, it was thought that some of Rachel's relatives had taken her out of the state, but that theory has since been discarded. Her bank account hasn't been touched since her disappearance, and there's no evidence that she's ever purchased any plane tickets or bus tickets to go anywhere because she's a 13-year-old kid. What's the likelihood that she's going to have a credit card or even a debit card? And this is 1996 we're talking about. She was lucky if she had a beeper. Now, going on, as I said about the stepfather, I'm not saying anything. He did give blood, semen, and saliva and hair samples to the authorities in 2000 when Rachel's case was reopened by a grand jury to convene an investigation. They did obtain a warrant to get the samples, which makes me think that maybe he didn't give them up voluntarily. Now, I don't think anything has been linked from that. If there was, he would obviously be arrested. Amy, Rachel's mother, states that she believes Rachel was alive and other persons knew her whereabouts. The Mellon family attorney said the case was being reinvestigated due to interest from television program America's Most Wanted, which back in the time was massive. Authorities have stated that they believe foul play was involved in Rachel's disappearance. I think that's pretty obvious. Vincent has been considered a possible suspect in her case for several years. I don't know if he still is. I don't know if he's been given a pass. I don't know. Now, when you get back to the Vincent situation, what, taking the dog for a walk, 20 degrees below zero, okay. But another thing that pops up is the police show up, they're talking, and they notice that he has a lot of scratches on his body after her disappearance, which he didn't seem to have before. He said he was injured while he was repairing his car. Okay. But he has a long record for domestic violence, and now I'm not saying this is a red flag, but he failed a lie detector test in connection with Rachel's disappearance. The grand jury investigation ended in 2000 without any indictments handed down. As they say, you can indict a ham sandwich, so that doesn't look good, but there's not a whole lot of evidence apparently with the case other than, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't look good. Rachel ran away and stayed at a friend's house over a year before her 1996 disappearance. She voluntarily returned home shortly after her departure. Authorities do not believe that she ran away in 96. Now, this is another one of those red flags, and I'm not trying to point the finger and say that this stepfather is guilty, but I'm also not saying he's innocent. I'll just say, to my opinion, strictly my opinion, when there's smoke, there's fire. That's all I'm saying. And this is why I say it. She kept a diary, which the police ended up finding, and they read after her disappearance. And in one of the entries, written months before she had vanished, she wrote that Vincent had kissed her and touched her inappropriately. Walking a dog 20 degrees below zero, left the front door unlocked, and you've been known to smack around a woman here and there. Okay. Rachel's father, her real father, Jeff Skemp, was living in Dallas, Texas at the time of her disappearance. He had separated from Amy when Rachel was just a toddler. Skemp stated that day Rachel vanished, he telephoned his mother. He said that was out of the ordinary for Rachel, as she was not allowed to talk to her grandmother. I don't know why. Rachel was an honor student at the time of her disappearance, and her favorite school subject was science. She was interested in recycling and nature. Sounds like a good kid. Skemp keeps his phone number listed in case Rachel does try to follow. Skemp being the father, apologies. He keeps his phone number listed in case she does try to contact him, but he believes that she's met with foul play. And I'm not saying she hasn't, but there's just not a lot of good things to go by. He held a memorial service, sadly, for her in 2006, something that you hate to hear, but every parent wants, needs, and deserves closure of some sort. Rachel's disappearance remains unsolved and no arrests have been made in connection with her case, but her disappearance is being investigated as a homicide. And that is the last update that I currently have. I will post a link to the website, which is the Charlie Project, and they currently have over 15,000 current missing people, not just in the U.S., worldwide. You can search by state if you want. You can search by, areas of, East Coast, West Coast, whatever. It's a sad story, especially when there appears to be I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm saying. But I'm not going to say it, but you know. But yeah, sadly, that's really all there is to it. And you hope that wherever she is, she's still alive and that she still has a chance. She would be 39, and you hope that she still has a chance to have a life. It doesn't appear that that would be true, but I always hold on to a little bit of hope and faith that there is a chance. But the further we get away from the incident, the less likely it is that it'll ever be solved. It's sad, and it's unfortunately, the further we get away from the disappearance in the case, the more likely that evidence is going to slip through the cracks, and people who should be talked to, they won't be. And people can get away with terrible things. I'm going to end this here. I don't want to drag it out. I will post a link and a description. I'll post a link to this page where it's pretty much has some pictures. It has 10 pictures of little Rachel. And there is the investigation agency in Bolingbrook Police Department, area code 630-226-0600. I'll post that in the description as well. There is source information. There's plenty of things you can go through and click at and read through. I've read through some, but this is just pretty much the quick gathering of information, just farmed through all that and put together on this page. Check out the Charlie Project if you can. It's sad that a website like that even has to exist, but it's a great thing that they do. And they have a section on there to donate, and it's whether it affects you or not, we all deserve a little bit of closure for things that could happen. And I always believe that there will be answers one way or the other. Unfortunately, a lot of times it just seems to never happen, but I hold out hope. Well, that's it. Sorry for the sad video, but it's something that I do believe that if you have a voice, you should try to use that voice for good. Not all the time. You don't have to every video, but some people do, and that they feel a reward from it. I just did this because I also feel like it's something that should be done. I appreciate it. Bad time to say like and subscribe, but I hope you will see that I have other things like this coming to the channel. And try to have a good day.